Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and my guest today is Camilla, who has been through a lot health-wise, and I mean some really awful health issues, including bariatric surgery and a host of complications related to that. In this episode, Camilla talks about how she turned her health around and how cutting sugar helped her do that. We'll get to our chat in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. Come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. You can also check out my TikTok account at Netta_lifeaftersugar. So let's get to my chat with Camilla. All right, today I'm here with Camilla, who is in Sweden. And Camilla, can you tell us a little bit about how you grew up in Sweden and what you used to eat as a child?
Oh my gosh, I grew up with my grandmother a lot over all the weekends mostly. So I was a full-blooded sugar addict at 6 years old. So I've been fighting with sugar addiction for my entire life. So I got sugar-free 13 years ago. And, you know, nobody understood. I'm 56 years old, so nobody understood at that point what's going on. But I always was like very anxious and kind of speedy and stuff like that. And I couldn't focus in school so much. So I realized really early that something was wrong in my life, but I didn't understand that it was the sugar and gluten that actually destroyed me.
Mm-hmm. And so when did you realize that it was those two things, sugar and gluten?
Yeah, long story short, I gained a lot of weight after my second child, and that was 1994, and my body went totally bananas, hormonal stuff and all of that. And that took me into eating more than usual, a very addictive eating, overeating. And in 1996, I weighed 205 kilos.
How tall are you?
170 centimeters.
All right, I have to translate that into inches and feet.
Yeah. But anyway, I had like a doctor wanted me to go to a healthy retreat or something like, I don't know how to call it, not an addiction treatment, but like a healthy retreat for 3 weeks. And I ended up being there for 37 weeks.
Wow.
And I realized during that time, but when somebody on the TV said like talked about sugar addiction, and I heard everything was about me, you know. So that's the 1996. I realized like, oh, okay, I'm on drugs. I'm on sugar drugs. So I totally got it then, and I ended up at an addiction treatment for some weeks, and after that, I had many years from 97 to 2004. I had many years sugar-free and kind of sober. And then I started a relationship and I didn't eat sugar or so back then, but I had some sip of, the bubbly wine or like a cocktail and so forth. And that's also when I realized that alcohol is triggering my eating.
Okay.
So then I was on drugs again, and I had a relapse until 2010 when I weighed 187 kilos again. So
Mm.
it's been a roller coaster. I fell in a stair. I broke my C1. I had a lot of trauma around that fall. And the doctors wanted me to do bariatric surgery, so I did because they scared me like if you don't do this, you will lose your right leg because you are very near sepsis and stuff like that. We need to get you down in weight very, very fast. So
Their
that
solution was bariatric surgery. Okay.
can you imagine that? It's been such a I did the surgery and day 3 everything went wrong and then I had some very tough years and in 2013 I was about to die from ileus and an exploded gallbladder and it was absolutely horrible and after that I never became myself again.
Wow.
So I got a brain injury out of that surgery. So there is a lot that people doesn't know about these things, but they shoot me up with glucose many days. So I ended up with lack of oxygen in my brain. So it's been for sure a roller coaster, this knowing that what I know today. So today I'm an advocate for helping people getting a sugar-free lifestyle instead of doing the surgery.
Wow. Yes. And was the surgery in Sweden?
Yes.
Yeah. So, so tell us more about how you kind of turned your life around by cutting sugar after your surgery.
The first thing was actually that I went sugar-free 6 months before, no, 3 months before the surgery because they told me you need to diet because we need to get your liver smaller so we can do the surgery. And I didn't understand much back then, but I went into keto food and I lost like 16 kilos before the surgery. And nothing like struck me that I could do this myself. But I did it, and because I didn't want to take the sugary protein drinks that the hospitals have, so that's why went keto. Read a little bit about it and tried it, and lost 16 kilos. And uh, that was kind of my turnaround. I haven't touched sugar, gluten, or alcohol since then. And it really turned my life around in a very positive way. The trouble I got in with the surgery is that it is really hard to get all the protein in when you had the surgery. So, um, and also to have a brain injury, and I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't speak, so I was very malnourished after all the. I have had 7 surgeries after the bariatric surgery.
Wow, wow. And that was to counteract the side effects or the other issues that you had for your health after the surgery.
Yeah, it's complicated with bariatric surgery, and now I'm 56 years old. I'm not getting younger. And what I notice now, post-op 13 years, is that my body is declining. There is a lot of side effects growing old that people is not talking about. And I see also like women in my age that had a surgery, they give up. They eat poorly, they don't have supplements. It's kind of like they are in such a bad shape with bad food and bad supplements, and it's kind of giving up.
Uh-huh. And I'm not an expert in bariatric surgery, but as far as I know, the volume of your stomach is vastly reduced. So the amount of food you can eat is also reduced. And then it also affects your digestive system. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they made a mistake with me, so they took too much of my esophagus. So I don't have a stomach. I have like the esophagus and the intestine just connected. So
Oh,
I don't have a stomach. So everything that I chew goes straight down the intestines. And it's kind of a lie, I would say. You don't, it depends on what surgery you do. If you do a sleeve, they cut your stomach into half. That's that operation, and you still have your stomach kind of. Gastric bypass that I did is disconnecting the stomach. You disconnect it, and then they try to do a little pouch where the food can land before it goes down the intestines. But I would say you cannot compare it to have a stomach.
hmm.
And you get B12, B1 deficient, you get D vitamin deficient, you get deficient in most of the nutrients because you can't absorb it, and you don't have intrinsic factor, and you don't get enough enzymes, so you have liver problems and all of that. So for me, it's all about also knowing that 3 years ago when I met Dr. Bob Rakowski, he actually saved my life because it was declining liver failure, kidney failure. I had empty sella syndrome. I also got a stroke. I was in really bad shape. And he said to me, Camilla, you, with this surgery, you are butchered into chronic starvation.
Oh,
And it doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter if you're normal, fat, or if you're skinny in this condition, because what's going on in your body is pure starvation.
yeah.
And if you have that, your body gets super stressed. And when your body gets super stressed and you can't get the cortisol down, everything starts to shut down in the body. And it shuts down so slowly. So you don't even notice, and you get fatigued and you get a lot of problems at the end, and it's not to recommend. And also I see with those who still eat sugar, they get even sicker in the stress, because as we know, sugar is a stressor for the body. Gluten is also a stressor for the body. And when you eat those, when you had the surgery, you will increase the inflammation in the entire body and in the brain, and it goes very, very fast. So it is a very special way of living. And I'm very grateful for every single day that I get, because I was very, very close. They called in my children because they said I will not make it. But I'm still here, and I'm trying to do the very best I can for humanity in this case, because the surgery is a freaking big money-making machine.
Yeah.
So, the surgeons have a lot of money to market, to do all of that kind of stuff. And you and I sitting here in our homes trying to be advocates for something that is better, it's kind of different.
Yes, yes, totally. And
Mm.
so all of these experiences that you had and these issues with your health made you look for better products or better foods for yourself. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about how that is for you now and what you're working with now in terms of supplements and different types of food products?
I'm so happy that you asked, Netta, because one of the things that I realized 3 years ago, or even 5 years ago, is that the supplementation of humans now is going into the hands of pharmaceutical companies. Just the last 6 months, I saw Pfizer has bought 4 other wellness companies that sell supplements. And I just want like to get a warning out through your listeners that please, please read the labels on all your supplements. I got to know a very nice man that is actually helping me producing supplements today, because I have decided to try to do supplements without any additives, and I couldn't find, because I don't want glycerin, I don't want sweeteners, I don't want sugar, and I don't want fillers and additives and stuff like that. So I didn't find what I needed in terms of supplements. So I started to make them myself.
Aha.
So thanks to Dr. Bob Rakowski, we now do Dr. Bob's RLS drops and Dr. Bob's RST drops, and that's drops that helps you decrease stress levels. Because there is something that we all have in common when we want to change our lives. Whether we want to exercise more, or start eating sugar-free, or whatever it is, if we are stressed, we will never succeed. And 2021, Dr. Bob Rakowski saved my life, because my entire body shut down of stress. And he gave me his stress reset protocol. And in 14 days, I was a totally new human that no doctor for 10 years could help me with, after my brain injury and after all the trauma I went through with in hospitals. And then I realized that people start asking me, what are you doing? Are you in love? People, me. No. I'm doing a stress protocol. And then I realized it was not only me, because when I talked about myself, all people around me said, oh, I feel that way too. So I think the screens, the pandemic, everything that we have to go through, every war that's going on in the world, everything that we are actually going through right now has put us in a state of stress that we think is kind of normal, but it's not. And it giving people, one of the worst things with stress is that you want to eat.
Yeah.
You have sweets. You need to calm down, because you are like this, and then you want to fix. You need to get your feelings in better shape and stuff like that. And a lot of people use sugar for that.
Yes. I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast, and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. For example, this 5-star review from Laurie, who says, this is an empowering podcast. Laurie says, I love all the craving support and education from this excellent podcast. I always learn something new and empowering. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it, so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar.
So I realized, and then they get more stress. First they crash, and then they need to get up again, and more sugar and more sugar and more sugar. So it's a vicious circle.
Exactly.
So I decided that I asked Dr. Bob if he would do the stress reset protocol together with me. And at the big excitement, he said yes. And now we have helped like 5,000 in a year. So I'm very, very pleased about that. And it's interesting also about doing when I did the protocol, I met myself in a state that I never been in.
Okay.
My entire life has been about adrenaline. And 2 months after the protocol, I had to kind of, what's going on? This is really peculiar. This is like strange. How do I feel? When you, it's like I had to get to know myself again.
Was that because you weren't feeling stressed anymore?
Exactly.
And you just didn't know how you would be feeling if you're not feeling stressed?
Exactly. And I've been stressed since childhood because I have childhood trauma, and I'm brought up in an alcoholic family, and it's been kind of a mess as a child. So for me, as a child, even if I grow up, I think that that's kind of a normal, but you need to cope with it and you just move on. But I realized that the the stressors and the traumas has been like being vibrating in me since childhood. And this was the first time I really could meet myself in a level of calmness, serenity. I have told one of my best friends that it felt like I met myself in my entire soul. And that was a fantastic feeling. So I know now that the protocol has helped addicts, sugar addicts, drug addicts, alcohol addicts to calm down their nervous system, to actually get out of the drug addiction. Doesn't matter what drug. And I see also that the protocol is stabilizing the blood sugar level. And that's really important for a person that's so stressed if you want to succeed with what you eat. And I could totally, when I see these people that I help, I can relate all the way on what I have done towards myself the entire life and never got help. So now when I got help, I couldn't just sit with this and know that, oh, there is something that could help people. And especially sugar addicts, stressed people, like all of that. So I just couldn't shut up. I had to talk about it. So that's what I've been doing now for a little over a year. And it took 18 months to develop. So it's so super pure and natural. So the company that produces it for me, they have to stir it for 72 hours before they can fill the bottles.
Okay. So
So
hang on.
that's
So can I just go back just a couple of steps?
Mhm.
So I often say we can't get rid of stress in our lives. What we can do, the power that we do have, is to learn how to cope with the stress in other ways than with sugar, right? Or alcohol or drugs. And so this protocol and these supplements that you've developed, what is in there that helps us to cope with the stress?
There is two different bottles. The RLS is containing amino acids like GABA and L-theanine, and also we have three types of B12, the methylated B12. So it's adenosylcobalamin, hydroxycobalamin, and methylcobalamin. And there's a very interesting reason why I did that. I learned for myself that a lot of people has a predisposition of not being able to absorb certain B12s. So then I got to talk with Dr. Bob about that. And if I take all three of them, we can be sure that some of them will hit the person that is actually taking it. So that's why I have three different B12s in it. Then we have bergamot, chamomile, we have lemon balm, and we have peppermint. And all of these adaptogens are actually synergized in this protocol. To these drops, we have 99% bioavailable certified organic Ganoderma spores, and that's Ganoderma reishi spores. And the cool thing with this is that when they meet, they help the body regulate the blood sugar. It helps to calm down the nervous system, and in both the physical and a mental and an emotional way. So That's why it's so effective. And I think I did the protocol without these drops when I did it 3 years ago, because I had to open capsules and put them in a glass and with some fluid and take it like that, have it in my mouth for a while. Today, there are drops you put under your tongue together with the sport powder in the capsules that you also put under your tongue. And in the RST, and we call them actually now the daytime drops, because in the RST drops, there is melatonin and all the other ingredients, the same as the RLS. And why we have melatonin in these drops is because melatonin, Dr. Bob discovered 15 years ago that something happened with the amino acids and the reishi powder when he had melatonin together with these. And now, 2022, a study came to confirm that melatonin boosts all other antioxidants. And in the spore powder, there is 150 plus antioxidants. So that's why they actually work. And if you are very, very chronically stressed, it's very difficult to take melatonin during the day, because the protocol is taking every waking hour for until 2 bottles of each is gone. And that's how I did it. And the intensity of taking this protocol is actually helping you to not let the stress in again, because you take it every waking hour. And that's why I felt so freaking calm afterwards, because the adrenaline didn't stand a chance when I did the protocol. So it's very, very interesting protocol that Dr. Bob Rakowski worked clinically with for 15 years. It's nothing new. It's just that I put another form in it because of the convenience for the person who's take it. So 1 bottle is actually 6 different supplements. So it gets cheaper also when you don't need to buy a lot of stuff.
And can I ask, are these supplements for people who have had bariatric surgery only, or for everybody?
I'm so glad you asked, because this is something that I discovered with my bariatric surgery. I had something in common. If you take a look at chronic stress and very difficult situations when it comes to nutrients, when you get older, elderly can barely absorb nutrients. Cancer patients that had done chemo and stuff like that, they are totally destroyed inside. They can't absorb nutrients. Bariatric surgery patients, burnt out people cannot absorb nutrients. And so I discovered that those people that had those problems talked to me and said, I feel that too. So I could actually see more groups than bariatric surgery patients just at once when I started it. So now we see that a lot of people say, yeah, I'm not stressed. I don't need that protocol. And then I say, I think that you should try it just to see if your body says something to you.
Yeah.
And then they come back and and I ask, how did it go? I didn't notice much except that I sleep better and I go to the toilet every day. And then you can just know that if you don't go to the toilet doing number 2 every single day, you're stressed. Your
Yeah.
system is stressed.
Yep.
And if you don't sleep well, you for sure are stressed, because sleep is longevity.
Yes, totally, totally. And also, are these supplements available only in Sweden or in the rest of the world?
They are available in the rest of the world. So we have FDA registration on the drops and also on the spores. So that's very easy to get them online. We are actually applying soon for NPN number in Canada. But Canadians can actually buy it from our store in Europe for personal use. Because we have French on the bottles as
Yes,
the label. We have
Canadian
French.
language laws. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there are 6 languages on the bottle. So we do Spanish, French, and we do Dutch and English and Finnish and Swedish.
Yeah, I would imagine
So
Swedish.
yeah.
Yes. And so these drops, do they have does a doctor have to suggest them or
No,
prescribe
no, no,
them?
no. This is actually superfood and supplements in a very specific way, blended in a very specific way. So I know for sure in Sweden we cannot have melatonin because it's a prescription thing in Sweden and in UK, but there we use the GABA. So it depends on where you live. If you have a restriction on melatonin that some have, Finland actually doesn't, but they have a restriction on GABA. So the world is a little bit gone crazy on this kind of supplements, because the supplements that I have in this protocol are more likely to help people in the USA because of the regulation says that you can say such a thing on of the protocol. In Europe, you can't say anything about this because it's like I have done a information sheet, and there I have structured what Canadian authority government say, US and Europe, so they can clearly see that you can't claim anything in certain parts of the world, and you can claim a lot in US, for instance.
Right. And to have FDA, what is it? What's the
Registration.
registration? Uh,
Mhm.
what does that actually mean?
You need an FDA registration to be able to sell supplements and food items in the US. That's mandatory. So if you can't show that you have a great production and that you take care of the process and all of that, you will not get an FDA registration. So it's kind of a statement from the government in the US that you need to, it's like NPN numbers in Canada, but Canada is way more complicated than USA and Europe. But the thing is that we use a facility that is really good in doing what they're doing. I have been working with scientists from the university in Lithuania, so I was a really pain in their butt because I didn't want any crap in my drops. So it took 18 months for them to solve that these drops could actually blend, because they ingredients are water soluble and fat soluble, and you don't mix that without alcohol. That's impossible. If you take a drop of alcohol or so in the bottle, you can fix it immediately. But I can't have alcohol when I try to help alcoholics.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's like, and alcohol is sugar, so I can't have it.
Gotcha. And
Hmm.
just to come back to the FDA registration, I mean, non-clean supplements have FDA registration. So that's why I was asking, what does that even mean? Doesn't mean that the product is
No,
quality.
I would not say that at all. FDA is, for me, it's like it's something you must do to sell on the market, but they don't care what you put in uh, your supplements. And I'm coming now to something that is very dear to my heart right now, that I see that big corporate companies like buying up the small wellness supplement companies that been pure and clean for decades, and now they get more and more dirt in it. So people ask me, oh, Camilla, can you recommend a brand that is pure and clean? And yet I haven't found any brand that is pure and clean with all their collection. So you need to read the labels, and that's why I'm now going into doing drops that is easier to absorb. And we have a line of supplements coming out, hopefully in the beginning of next year. All sugar-free, all free from sweeteners, soy, additives, all kinds of glycerin and alcohol. Nothing of that can be in my product. So that's regarding food items or supplements, doesn't matter. So for me, it's really about nourishing people. And if you want to eat a chocolate bar, you need to find a really pure and clean one and no sweeteners or anything. And I have taken great pride in doing my own recipes that is now handmade chocolate bars that is 100% cacao. So with extra fat, so you don't spike your blood sugar when you eat them. And that is something that has been on my mind for many, many years. And they have no toxins. The lead and cadmium discussion in the US is huge. And when we take the cacao beans to Europe, the European Union is very, very strict on what kind of products we take in here. So now I started to export to North America because I had the cleanest chocolate compared to what's sold in the US and Canada. So, you know, when I started this 2020 doing sugar-free products, everybody said like, "Oh, you're gonna go bankrupt. Nobody is gonna buy from you. You will not have customers. People want sweets and at least sweeteners." And I had an investor wanted to invest in me, and he said like, "Yeah, I can bring in money, and you can do bars with sweeteners and stuff like that." And I turned down $100,000 investment, and I said like, "I can't do that." So I rather not do anything than do crap just to earn money. So that's kind of when you want to do something that the entire world is feeling, don't take my drug, don't take my drug, because people are like, oh, sugar is that's my
Yeah.
little, you know.
Yeah, my one joy in life. It's like I call it a love-hate relationship with
Yeah,
sugar. We know
absolutely.
we're not supposed to, and it's bad for us, blah, blah. And yet we love it so much, and it's so difficult to let go of.
Yeah, and it when people try to teach people to get off sugar, like give them a diet, it always goes wrong because the addiction is stronger than the diet.
Yeah.
And one diet doesn't fix all sugar addicts because we have different biochemistry. And nobody has known this. That's why diets never have worked. I've been doing every kinds of diet through my life with getting rid of everything. But I also think that if you don't know that the yellow oils and the gluten and all the additives that is bringing you a really lethal cocktail and disturb your system to actually eat more, then you can't fix it.
Yeah. Yes, makes sense. It makes total sense. I'm going to put the link to your supplements in the show notes, as well as your new cookbook that will be
Ooh,
coming out soon, right?
yeah, it's been I'm doing the last on the book the upcoming 2 weeks, and then I have a test print, so I hope it will be here to Christmas.
Smashing. Thank you, Camilla, so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be on your podcast, and congratulations to several hundred episodes. I'm so proud of you,
Yeah,
Meta.
thank you. Thank you, Camilla. Gosh, what a long and difficult journey Camilla's been through. And it's so inspiring, I think, to see that despite all her health issues, Camilla has come out of these very difficult and traumatic situations and she's created something good for the world. I don't know about you, but I find that really inspiring. And as Camilla freely admits, she didn't do this on her own. In fact, she couldn't do it on her own. Dropping sugar and foods that contain sugar is a huge challenge for most of us. And that's exactly why I created the Freedom from Cravings Formula program. It's a program that's specifically designed for women over 50 who want to get rid of cravings and feel more in control around food, especially sugar and comfort foods. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed to help you get control over cravings so that you can finally live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly and feel confident in your food choices so that you can ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never feel like you're on some kind of a restrictive diet. If you're at the stage of your life where you're finally ready to look after yourself, let's chat. You can hop on a free clarity call with me at any time by going to aftersugarclub.com and clicking on the big green button, Book a Clarity Call with me. We'll have a quick 30-minute one-on-one chat where you'll be able to tell me more about your challenges and goals, and we'll be able to see how the Freedom from Cravings Formula program can help you. So go to aftersugarclub.com. Speak soon. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.